Okay.
Okay. So it's a holiday.
Yes. We're expecting a few participants. Let's see how many turn up.
Yeah. I know it, but it's a festival day, so
That's what.
we'll have to. It's good. Still, you could organize this.
Actually, we already had a thought in our minds, like to invite you for any such occasion. And when this came up, so I suggested your name actually to our director, sir. So he readily agreed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How many students you have in your department, Mass-Comm?
Mass-Comm, we have around like close to 100, 150 for degree.
Oh.
But for masters and PG diploma, it's a little bit less,
Yeah. And what about the placement and all? Where they have been placed, basically, primarily?
We don't have a placement mechanism as such for our department. But we do encourage, them to, go for certain different arenas and different disciplines. We keep them. So maybe in another 1 or 2 years, we'll have some proper mechanism in place,
True.
for placement and all. So,
but you don't have a WhatsApp group for the...
we do have a WhatsApp group.
Alumni and all?
We have alumni and all those stuff we have. But, having those organizations come to our universities, select those possible candidates, that thing hasn't taken place as yet. So maybe we look into another.
And for the students, it is purely in a distance mode, or do they also come for physical classes?
We do have physical mode. I mean, it's completely like blended mode of system of learning we have.
Okay.
We have a study center at Khanapara. So we take counseling classes and all.
Same in the IGNO model.
Yeah, similar to the IGNO model.
Do they also come for physical classes?
We do have physical mode. I mean, it's completely like blended mode of system of learning we have. We have a study.
Same in the IGNO model.
Yeah, similar to the IGNO model.
Good morning.
Good morning. কি খবৰ?
বাহ বঢ়িয়া। বহুত দিনৰ মূৰত।
বঢ়িয়া পালে।
আকৌ ভাৰ্চুৱেলি দেখা দেখি। বিশ্বদীপ ইকো হৈ আছে। কিয় কাৰণে চোৱাচোন। কি কৰিব লাগিব?
নহয় এইটো মানে
ইউটিউবৰ কাৰণে হৈ আছে। এতিয়া ঠিক আছে নে চোৱাচোন এতিয়া ওকে 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 ইউটিউবৰ কাৰণে হৈ আছে ঠিক আছে বুজি পাইছো না
মানে অডিও মাল্টিপল অডিও অন হৈ থাকিলেও এটো হয়
নহয় মানে মই ইউটিউবত আসলতে ভিডিওটো লাইভ ষ্ট্ৰীমিং হৈ আছে ইউটিউবত
আচ্ছা
আচ্ছা আমাৰ এনএন শৰ্মা স্যাৰ আহিছে
হয়
Sir, morning. Sir. বিশ্বদীপ শৰ্মা ছাৰৰ আনমিউট কৰিব পৰা নাই গতিকে তেওঁ মোবাইলেদি জয়েন কৰিব মোবাইলেদি জয়েন কৰিলে তেওঁ কো-হোষ্ট কৰি দিবা
So shall we wait for another 2-3 minutes, or like we need to begin right now?
It's a holiday. People generally feel busy. Let us wait for a few minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
তৃষা মোৰ মাতটো শুনি পাইছা নহয়?
স্যাৰ পাইছো।
ঠিক আছে।
Tisha, আমি আৰম্ভ কৰো নেকি কাৰণ we have around 14 participants and people will join. দেৰি নকৰো.
Okay, sir.
Sharma sir busy. He will be having some other program. Sir, morning.
Good morning. Hi. আৰম্ভ কৰিব পাৰো আমি.
Okay, so good morning to all. Honorable Vice Chancellor of Krishnakanta Handek State Open University, distinguished invited speaker, Sushanta Talukdar, respected directors of the schools, senior officials of the university, students, colleagues, and my dear friends. I, on behalf of the Bhupen Hazarika School of Mass Communication, Krishnakanta Handek State Open University, would like to cordially welcome you all to a very special lecture that has been organized on occasion of World Press Freedom Day 2022. Introduced by the United Nations General Assembly in December 1993, the World Press Freedom Day celebrates the fundamental principles of press freedom, to evaluate press freedom around the world, to defend the media from attacks on their independence, and also to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the exercise of the profession. This year's theme centers around journalism under digital siege. This theme will basically focus on several ways in which journalism is endangered by surveillance and digitally mediated attacks on journalists, and the consequences of all this on public trust in digital communications. Now I'd like to invite our Vice Chancellor of Krishnakanta Handek State Open University, Professor N.N. Sarmasha, to share his thoughts with us. So.
Thank you, Dr. Tisha Dwara. Distinguished speaker of this session, Sri Sushanta Talukdar, Professor Jayanta Kumar Harma, and other colleagues in the discipline of journalism and mass communication. My esteemed colleagues in the university, dear learners and friends present here. First of all, I'd like to extend my warmest greetings on the occasion of Eid, the festive occasion, as well as on the occasion of the Press Freedom Day. Befitting with this day, as has been mandated, the university has organized this particular lecture session and has a distinguished speaker, Sri Sushanta Talukdar, to deliver the talk and lead the discussion. The topic is very apt in the sense that freedom of press. We have seen the days of emergency in the mid-1970s, in which the freedom of press was at stake. We have seen the newspapers with lots of edited, only a few news items, others all just kept white. And that's how the press used to report in those days. I have been asked to share my thoughts. While sharing my thoughts on freedom of press, two thoughts have come to my mind. One is the granted freedom. The other one is the earned freedom. Freedom is granted because by the state machineries. At the same time, freedom is also earned. In the media world, as the saying goes from the Times of India, that the message is the medium is the message. And lots of changes have taken place in the media world. In the last 2 decades, and it's mostly because of the advent of digital media. And with this digital media, all the aspects of media, most especially the 3 sets of media in terms of reach, frequency, and impact. Reach has become quite wide because of the buzz effect. Earlier it was the word of mouth, now it's the clicks that spreads like anything. Reach has become quite wider. Frequency has also, because we see lots of multiplicities, multiplier effects, we keep on watching. And because of that, lots of distortion also takes place. The original message gets lost, and that ultimately makes an effect on the impact. So that RFI, reach, frequency, impact, all these things are changing for the advent of digital media. Now here lies a call for all of us, not only for the persons involved in the media world, because in today's scenario of crowdsourcing, we all have to assume a responsibility. And from that perspective, my original thought, granted responsibility and assumed or earned responsibility. We all have a role in terms of assumption of a responsibility to ensure transparency in the media world, so as to bring in the credibility, which I would not say is a lost credibility, but to some extent, credibility is at stake. So we need to have some kind of self-censorship. So censorship, not from the machineries and not from the state machineries, is an assumed responsibility of the self-censorship, so that we can have more and more of transparency. And when we'll be having more and more of transparency, credibility, the reach, frequency, impact will play its own role. And in that case, we'll be able to contribute towards a development of a responsible citizen, responsible society, and there only the true meaning of that medium message is the medium is the message. So with these few words, I'd just like to congratulate the organizer and would like to welcome the distinguished speaker. We are eagerly waiting to listen to him. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It is my privilege to introduce our speaker for today's occasion, Sushanta Talukdar. Sushanta Talukdar has 29 years of experience of covering India's northeastern region and its neighborhood for local and national dailies. He has also covered the region for 11 years for The Hindu. He has taken voluntary retirement from The Hindu as a senior assistant editor in the year 2015 to launch a bilingual online magazine, anyzine.com. Besides, he has been a regular contributor to Frontline since 2004. Prior to his association with The Hindu, he was a principal correspondent with the Telegraph in Guwahati and other local English dailies. Presently, he's serving as an editor of Anyzine, a bilingual online magazine in English and Assamese, focusing on India's Northeast. He is also the recipient of the Parag Kumar Das Journalism Award for the year 2016. Now, before handing over the session to our speaker, I'd like to inform everyone that you can type in your different queries, or if you have any suggestions or comments in the chat box, which we will take up after the lecture is over. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over the session to Sushanta Talukdar. Sir.
Good morning, respected Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Sharma, Professor Borua. I am grateful for the fact that it's a holiday, but still you have found time to express solidarity with the journalists world over for whom this freedom means a lot, and more particularly in the changing scenario. Thank you, all the participants in the discussion. I would like to stick to, I haven't brought a PowerPoint. I mean, it had been offline, I could have done that, but I find it a bit disturbing when you are in an online session, so not fully tuned to it. And I'm a journalist, I write, report, not a speaker. So I would like to beg your indulgence if I digress, which is, I am always good at digressing because I have not been able to master the art of speaking. But then, even if I digress, I can assure you that I'll be sticking to the subject topic around the subject of today, which has rightly been flagged. And I strongly agree with Professor Sharma, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, that the media's credibility is at stake. And unless we do not initiate action, then probably we are also posed threat to press freedom. It's primarily press freedom has remained a mirage for journalists committed to practice ethical journalism of truth, accuracy, independence, fairness, and accountability. Rapid spread of digital technology, facilitating the rise of new and social media, has brought a glimmer of hope for press freedom in alternative channels of communications. But it has come with ambiguities of media privacy and ownership. Besides, attempt by the government to monitor and control digital media space behind the smokescreen of self-regulation has made the road for the press freedom longer than it appears. Now, who defines the yardsticks of press freedom? Journalist or the media owner, publisher, who employ them? Who is at the top of the hierarchy of the newsroom? The editor or the proxy of the owner in editor? Finding answers to these questions has become more important to understand the importance of observation of the word press freedom. And especially in the context of this year's themes, journalism under digital seas. Let us not forget that in India, press freedom is only implied and not specifically mentioned in Article 19(1)(a) of the Indian Constitution, and comes with reasonable restrictions on exercise of freedom of questions state on the matters relating to sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign countries, public order, etc. While in the United States, First Amendment to the US Constitution prohibits passing of law, curtailing freedom of speech or of the press, where the United States, the press gets directly mentioned in the Constitution. However, rushing to a conclusion that about press freedom in the US, ignoring the threat posed to media pluralism by rising concentration of media ownership in changing media landscape will be erroneous. Now, media ownership plays a vital role in media ecosystem, but the issues relating to media ownership in India have not been settled. Over the past 29 years of observation of the World Press Freedom Day, for the past 14 years, India has not been able to come to a conclusion if cross-media ownership threatens media plurality, media freedom, by increasing no-go areas of journalists. Now, when a corporate entity go on acquisitioning the media and the owner business person having the conflict of interest, naturally the journalists working in all the media owned by that particular the business person or the corporate owner or a political person, the no-go areas will be increased. That means the freedom of the journalist will be limited to the areas outside the business interest or the political interest of the owner. So that's how we should try to perceive press freedom, the status of press freedom at. To the contrary, journalists, media houses discharging their fundamental role of investigating and informing citizens about commissions and omissions of the government at the center and in states have become vulnerable with IT cells of ruling and opposition parties deploying army of trollers on social media against them. Now, digital surveillance of social media by multiple agencies has triggered concerns of digital safety of journalists. Many journalists prefer to talk to other journalists and their sources only over encrypted calls, citing apprehensions of being put under surveillance. I would like to share a personal experience. Just 2 days back, I called one of my friend, journalist friend, and we discussed about. I started discussing about some political issues about the state, about the country. Then he suddenly got alarmed, and he said, "Let me call you on WhatsApp, because you never know. I'm quite afraid that our conversation might be recorded. We might be put under surveillance." And this is the status of freedom, the press freedom, that journalists in the ecosystem that in which the journalists are working. And I was surprised to find that he's not someone who is critical of the present ruling dispensation at the center, but just because of his closeness with someone in the power center. Different power centers are there, and it's close to some other power centers. And I really found it very disturbing that journalists not being able to talk even over telephone, discuss about the issues with fellow journalists. We know about the LA's use of Pegasus, a spyware produced by Israeli technology firm NSO Group against journalists, apart from political leaders, activists, human rights defenders, union ministers, and in India and about 44 other countries, which is brought to the fore the extent of digital surveillance to which journalists might have been subjected to. It's triggering real apprehension over their digital safety. The Supreme Court, in its judgment ordering the constitution of a probe panel into the allegation, quoted George Orwell. If you want to keep a secret, you must also hide it from you. And he stated, and the bench stated, that the batches of petitions before it in the case raised an Orwellian concern about the LA's possibility of utilizing modern technology to hear what you hear, see what you see, and know what you do. And the bench quoted in its order. The order is available online. We can all of us get it. I quote, "The Pegasus suite of spywares can allegedly be used to compromise the digital devices of an individual through zero-click vulnerabilities. That is, without requiring any action on the part of the targets of the software. Once the software infiltrates in individual's device, it allegedly has the capacity to access the entire stored data on the device and has real-time access to emails, text, phone calls, as well as the camera and sound recording capabilities of the device, sound recording capabilities of the device. Once the device is infiltrated using Pegasus, the entire control over the device is allegedly handed over to the Pegasus user, who can then remotely control the functionalities of the device and switch different features on or off. The NSO Group purportedly sells this extremely powerful software only to certain undisclosed governments, and end user of its products are exclusively government intelligence and law enforcement agencies as per its own website. The government of India denied the media reports. The court also said that there has been no specific denial of any of the facts averred by petitioners by the respondent, the Union of India. There has been only omnibus and vague denial in the limited affidavit filed by the Union of India, which the court says cannot be sufficient. In such circumstances, the court says, we have no option but to accept the prima facie case made out by the petitioners to examine the allegations made, the Supreme Court in its order says. The terms of the Supreme Court appointed, terms of reference for the Supreme Court appointed probe panel include, among others, to inquire, investigate, and determine whether the Pegasus suite of software was used on phones or other devices of the citizens of India to access stored data, eavesdrops on conversations, intercept information, or any other purposes of not explicitly stated herein. The details of the victims or persons affected by such spyware attack, and if governmental agency has used the Pegasus suite of spyware on the citizens of this country, under what law, rule, guideline, protocol, or lawful procedure was such deployment made. These findings of this probe panel will answer these and many other questions that will be critical for deriving a clear picture about press freedom in the digital media landscape in India. We are not rushing to a conclusion now. It's still under investigations, but at least we can get an idea to the status of digital freedom, what kind of digital freedom the media persons in India might enjoy. So why I decided to speak on the subject that I have chosen, the self-censorship, I will come to in about detail. And that has become the new strategy to escape surveillance. I know, I agree with Professor Sharma, Honorable Vice Chancellor, about the self-censorship required, not just in the digital media, but the whole media landscape, even in the print media, and we always try to practice it. And basics of journalism teaches us to self-censor on issues where are harmful to the society. If my reporting could cause enmities among the communities, add fuel to the fire of ethnic or communal violence, conflict, or invades privacy, I need to exercise self-censorship. That is where it is for the public good, to uphold the journalistic ethical principles of code of ethics for the journalists. Now, the self-censorship that I'm talking about, I'm highlighting on the occasion of the World Press Freedom Day, is the self-censorship adopted by journalists to escape the surveillance, which I talked about in my about the Pegasus the controversy. Because having left unprotected from alleged state surveillance and political hate campaigns, self-censorship has become a preferred safety mechanism for many journalists and media publishers for legacy media as well as new media on digital platforms. Ironically, since self-censorship is not resorted by most of these media publishers when basics of journalism teach us not to publish the information that may aid to communal flare-up, disturb peace and harmony among communities, or pose impediment in conflict resolution. High decibel television talk shows with some moderators parroting questions posed by ruling party in a bid to corner opposition party spokespersons, then asking critical questions to ruling party spokesperson has become another mode of self-censorship. These talk shows are first spread across digital distribution channels to shape the narrative that asking critical questions to the opposition party spokesperson is bold and courageous journalism. Such distortion of public perceptions of media role has posed grave threat to media freedom. It has contributed to building of an ecosystem systematically to destroy media scrutiny of public expenditures and objective reporting. Media investigation into implementation of government projects, schemes, and programs, and critical observation of public policies are presented to be a mere criticism of government to create public that journalists performing a fundamental role of watchdog of government functioning are anti-nationalist, anti-ruling party. What is more worrying is that fringe elements indulging in religious bigotry are given prominent space in primetime news bulletins, in television talk shows, digital platforms, front page space in newspapers, in both in print and digital editions, allowing them to use media space to spread communal hatred with impunity. A large number of media publishers prefer to dump media code of ethics and invoke a distorted version of press freedom without social responsibilities to defend their articulated positions that they often reiterate. Facts must be told, but facts also need to be withheld when it harms the society, when it harms the interest of the press freedom or the journalists. Apprehensions of stricter digital surveillance has grown among journalists, and digital vigilance is pushing the narrative that everything that is being done by the government is for the national interest and public good and must not be questioned by anyone, including media. The farmers' movement, which compelled the Narendra Modi-led government to roll back 3 farm laws despite the Bharatiya Janata Party-led ruling coalition enjoying brute majority in the parliament and its coverage by the so-called mainstream media, is a classic example of self-censorship by some media houses for the fear of surveillance and some other media houses owing to their commercial interest of their owners. A battery of committed journalists found the digital platforms to be effective alternative channels of communications to tell the stories of resolute and relentless struggle of farmers to which the powerful government had to bow down. The central government notified the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021 on February 25th last year, during the peak of farmers' protests against the farm laws. The farm laws were subsequently repealed by the parliament in December 2000 last year. The digital media rules prescribe a three-tier regulatory mechanism for all digital publishers. Self-regulation by the publishers at level 1, self-regulatory bodies registered with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, of which the digital publishers are members at level 2, and an oversight mechanism by the central government at level 3. These rules require that every publisher shall establish a grievance redressal mechanism and appoint a grievance redressal officer based in India for receiving and redressing grievances in a time-bound manner. The details of grievance redressal mechanism will be displayed by the publisher at an appropriate place on its website or the interface. Also, every publisher needs to become a member of the self-regulatory body. The complainant can appeal against the decision of the publisher to the self-regulating body of which the publisher is a member. The complainant can appeal against the decision of the self-regulating body to the oversight mechanism. The Ministry of Information Broadcasting and the interdepartmental committee constituted by the ministry and different interdepartmental committee constituted by the ministry, it constitutes the oversight mechanism. In case of content where the committee is satisfied that there is need for taking action in relation to the reasons enumerated in subsection 1 of the section 69A of the IT Act, it may recommend such section. The section 69 of the IT Act empowers the central government or any of its officers authorized under it to issue directions for blocking of public access of any information through any computer resource if it is satisfied that it is necessary to or expedient to do so in the interest of the sovereignty, integrity of India, defense of India, security of the states, friendly relations with foreign states, or public order, or for preventing incitement to the commission of any cognizable offense relating to this. Now, self-regulatory mechanism at level 1 and level 2 would have sufficed to create a responsible digital media ecosystem. The oversight committee at the level 3 is seen as a mechanism to exercise government control over digital media, and therefore it has given rise to legitimate concern over digital media rules. A bunch of petitions challenging these rules are pending before the Supreme Court. The central government pleaded with the Supreme Court, I beg your pardon, with the Supreme Court to restrain all high courts in the country from passing any order of the digital media rules, and argued that these rules are aimed at preventing misuse of freedom of speech and protecting citizens from fake news. However, the apex court turned down the government plea, which has kept alive the hope for crusaders of press freedom. Cutthroat competition to be ahead in the 24/7 race has led to social media posts taking the place of fact-checking. Physical verification or even a phone call is now often not resorted by some journalists, and they depend on the tweets, Facebook post. Now, the political propagandists and hate spreaders have taken advantage of such dilution in gatekeeping in newsroom by spreading fake news in digital landscape. Fake news has become a powerful weapon for them to destroy media credibility, and clamor has grown for regulation of digital media news publishers. Self-regulation of certainly is, and certainly not regulation. I strongly believe it is the self-regulation and certainly not regulation or the control or the oversight by the government is the correct approach to prevent such aberrations and protect press freedom in digital landscape. And then I flagged the issue of the media ownership at the very beginning. Now, while the set of petitions challenging digital media rules are pending before the Supreme Court, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has issued a consultation paper on issues relating to media ownership on April 12th this year, seeking comments by May 12 and counter comments by May 24. Earlier on August 12, 2014, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India issued recommendations on issues relating to media ownership. Prior to, and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting wrote to the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India in February this year, seeking reconsideration of these recommendations in the light of these subsequent technological developments in the media industry and issue a fresh set of recommendations. The MIB in its letter stated that considerable time has elapsed, and during this period, media and entertainment landscape has changed drastically, particularly with the advent of new digital technology in the sector. Now, the trial recommendation in 2014 followed a request by the MIB, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, on May 16 for in 2012 for a relook at the issue of vertical integration of broadcasting and TV distribution sectors and cross-media holdings across TV, print, and the radio sectors. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting requested the trial to suggest measures that can be put in place to address vertical integration in order to ensure fair growth of the broadcasting sector, and to suggest measures with respect to cross-media ownership with the objective to ensure plurality of news and views, availability of quality services at reasonable prices to consumers. And then in response to this request, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India floated a consultation paper earlier in 2013. And also it floated another consultation paper in 2008, based on which it forwarded its recommendations on media ownerships, particularly on the cross-media ownerships, because some of the recommendations gave by Telecom Regulatory Authority of India included that the broadcasters should not have control in the distribution and vice versa. And definition of control, it said that any entity which has been permitted license for television broadcasting or has more than 20% equity in a broadcasting company shall not have more than 20% equity in any distributor. But all these recommendations are still pending and has not been implemented by the government. So in this consultation paper floated by TRI earlier in 2012, the Delhi Union of Journalists flagged the concerns over growing concentration of media ownerships, which helps us understand the status of media freedom and the dangers the cross-media ownerships and the concentration of media ownership poses to the press freedom. I quote the Delhi Union of Journalists submission, their comments to the trial consultation paper submitted in 2012. It says, plurality and diversity of opinion in media can only follow from genuine freedom of press, persons to voice their opinions. It must mean democracy within the media. This definitely requires of ownership of media. Too many of our members have suffered the stifling of their voices and censoring of their beliefs simply because these conflict with the unwritten policies of their employers. Some of them have been victimized, some demoted, some transferred, and others simply fired for standing by their beliefs. Some have been victimized for filing stories or exposes that are inconvenient to those in authority. Others have been victimized for their editorial opinions. Many resort to daily self-censorship of their writings and opinions solely to retain their jobs in an insecure environment. Cross-media holdings are enabling employers to enlarge and extend their domains, bringing them ever greater political clout, and these cross-media owners bringing them ever greater political clout and financial might. In recent years, the media, particularly the rapidly growing business press, has been dominant voice in the clamor for economic reform that will benefit business interests, but not necessarily other sections of society. The needs of rural India are largely neglected in an advertisement-driven media targeted at urban consumers. The media aggressively promotes the growth agenda over development agenda. These are opinion choices made by media employers, motivated by their revenue models, and that do not reflect the opinions of large number of Indians. It is vital for democracy to have more plurality of opinion in media. This requires dismantling of existing monopolies and cross-media empires and set on the growing concentration of media ownership. The new consultation paper floated by the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has also flagged concerns over concentration of media ownership in the digital media landscape, addressing which it is vital to protecting media independence and plurality. It says digital media landscape is marked by dominance of limited number of very large players who have wherewithal to consolidate by acquiring smaller players. This can reduce media pluralism by understanding the diversity of new age portals and online media. However, another aspect remains to be about the lack of accuracy of some online players. There have been a number of cases of fake curated videos being viral on social media platforms. Such fake curated contents sometimes lead to serious repercussions. Another facet of lack of authentication of content on digital media is that it challenges and sometimes contradicts the traditional media organizations, leading to a state of confusion and misinformation in the society. Therefore, there are diverse issues on a consolidation of media that reduces the number of market players. It also raised the apprehensions that the concentration of media ownership may restrict the freedom of speech and expression as enshrined in Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution of India. The core idea is the active citizenry, which is the foundation of democracy, and therefore requires presence of diverse voices and perspectives in public debates. The independence of 40 states, the consultation paper has flagged. Alternative revenue models, like the one adopted by the Guardian, available for everyone, funded by readers, that include contribution and subscription both, and not the government and corporate advertisement and purely subscription dependent model of putting the digital editions behind the paywall, can ensure media independence. There is no alternative to strict adherence to basics of journalism: fact-checking, authenticating, investigating, following the code of ethics, and stronger editorial gatekeeping to protect media credibility from being destroyed by fake news menace. Editors must be able to say no to the media publishers and owners if and when they try to press for reducing news to clickbait contents, for getting likes and shares to tap digital revenues. A democracy to be robust and vibrant must ensure press freedom. Convergence of media on the digital platforms has brought new realities for traditional and new media publishers and journalists. It is their choice between press freedom and self-censorship that will determine the contemporary and future role of media in Indian democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs as far as the issue of press freedom and self-censorship is concerned. I'd now like to open up the session for discussion. Anyone would like to make any comments or raise any queries? Feel free to do so. Anyone? Okay, I just have it's a thought just from my side. We often talk about press freedom and on journalists being given or being asked to be the watchdogs of the government. So what I feel like, how can actually the journalists fulfill their duty of being their mission of being the watchdogs of the government while they are being threatened or targeted by the power in place? So what is your take on that?
Yes, those journalists who were committed to the fundamental role of a journalist, they are doing it. Right. And some of them have come under pressure, but they have not given it up. You have to withstand the pressure. There is no alternative to it. I mean, and that is the role, because it is a taxpayers' money, and we need to find out, investigate if the money has been put to use, if the way the people want. I mean, in the way the parliament has voted, the way the assemblies have voted. No? I mean, keeping an eye on the implementation of the schemes, projects, it only helps the government, to the policymakers, to find the lacuna in their implementation, because the schemes, projects, policies, laws, these are debated democratically on the floor of the parliament, and but then when it comes to implementation, the responsibility is upon the executives. So whether the executives are performing their role, because media it has to play its role as the fourth estate as the fourth pillar of democracy. Whether the other pillars are functioning, and it is to be, because media cannot be part of the other three pillars. It has to keep its role clear, distinct from the other three pillars. So certainly, I mean, at the same time, I mean, so any critical observation about any schemes or policies, it cannot be brushed aside to be a criticism of the government. But journalists are facing this problem. When you come across with a story, I mean, the objective reporting, there is nothing to based on somebody's allegations, either by the opposition political parties or opposition political leader. You, through your own investigations and objective, with the objectivity of informing the people. And that is, yeah.
Okay, so like, would you say that good quality investigative journalism is losing its ground because of this fake news or in such death threats? Do you think that quality has come down?
Yeah, I mean, I will not say quality has come down. They are still there, but probably they are lost in the overcrowding of the fake news and the other so-called positive news or good news.
Okay.
No? So, I mean, when the good stories are not attracting likes and shares,
right?
Because they are not bringing revenues. They are not. These are digital currencies in the new media ecosystem. They are not bringing you revenues to the owner. But then those who are committed, they are doing it. I mean, yes, that's where the alternative digital platform. And I must say that even in traditional legacy media also doing it. I will not say that they are not doing it. But then yes, they are facing problem. They are not enjoying the freedom to do these stories. And those who are afraid, those who have could not muster enough courage to do these stories, they are resorting to self-censorship. They are resorting to, well, you might look at the issues that are being highlighted when the entire country is rolling under acute price hike, be it in fuel price, be it in the inflation, unemployment crisis. What are the issues that are being dominated by the media? Why are they doing it? So I say that this is one kind of censorship. I do not think that these journalists do not have the capacity or the skill or the courage to do the investigative journalism. Yeah, there is a question: what is the difference between the press freedom in India and press freedom in the West? If there is difference, well, in the West also press freedom is under threat. That's why I try to flag the issue of the media concentration and media ownership. And that is the concern. Although yes, in India, probably the threat directly posed to journalists is increasing, and when in most cases the state is silent. Now, female journalists are attacked, hurled expletives by the IT cell, the IT cell activists of ruling and opposition parties. I'm not identifying singling out only one party, political party. But I mean, in ordinary cases, I mean, any common woman who would have gone to a police station, lodge a case, or it required the law enforcing authorities to to take a case against abuse of social media or the digital media to target or pass an obscene remark against someone. But then female journalists are being allowed, are being attacked without, and those who are doing it with impunity. So that presents the overall picture of the media freedom in India and in state. But otherwise, when it comes to the ownership, concentration of media, and that when media ownership, the concentration grows, then certainly the freedom is lost, because your no-go areas increases. That's why I spoke about the Guardian model. The Guardian model is depending on the readers. As a new model, new alternative revenue model. But when Jeff Bezos and others like Elon Musk will be entering into the media segment, they are not going to provide you the areas, freedom of to the journalists to go every single area of their business empire. Same is the case in India. The owners who have their business interests in other, and basically they use corporate entities in the Indian economic, in the sector, financial sector. We cannot expect journalists from working in media owned by them. So the no-go area increases. So apart from the political curbing, the government framing of laws to curb press freedom, we also need to look at the changing media ownership pattern, to find out whether the press really enjoy, journalists can really enjoy the freedom.
Right. There's one more participant. Her name is Evolo. She has sent a direct message to me. Her question is like, how can journalists come together to promote pluralism in issues considered critical for the public stakeholders and the common population?
Yeah, thank you for questions. And it is, the efforts are being made by journalists. Like, but then before it takes version, like, I mean, when the rules have been brought in, under which this new media rules, digital media rules, there is provision to monitor oversight, government oversights. So the journalists have come together to challenge these rules in the court. And journalists have come together on platforms, digital platforms, and they are trying to build and even among the media entities, trying to do collaborative journalism. Like in case of Pegasus, it's the issue came to fore through a collaborative effort of the journalists across the world. The journalists first team exchange informations investigated jointly in different parts of the world. And even I think you must have heard about Pandora Papers, in which it's journalists from 80 countries came together to expose the wealth built by corrupt means by the political, the rulers, the business persons, corporate, across the world. So the journalist collaboration is happening, and that is the need of the hour. So so that when you are those who are promoting media objective reporting, those who are promoting following the strict adherence to the media code of ethics, ethical journalism, these groups are trying to collaborate, and so that they find a unified voice among them. And this collaboration is also needed to fight the menace of fake news. Even in Assam, these initiatives have begun, so that you cannot paint all the digital publishers with the same brush. If someone is doing abusing the digital media access in spreading fake news or violation, or doing news in violation of the code of ethics, then it is also important that those who are following code of ethics and believe in the true journalism, they must come together, and that it is happening. And I'm hopeful that these collaborative efforts by the media will keep the sick and the digital media being served by the media, the concentration from media ownership, as well as by disruptive elements who wants to destroy the media credibility. Yes.
I think we missed out the first part of the question by Dr. Panam Saikia. He has said about, capitalist monopolies, state and capitalist bonding resulted press monopoly against pluralism in India. In this context, where do press freedom lie in future?
Yes, he has correctly raised this issue, and then that is what the consultation paper floated by Telecom Regulatory Authority of India is also trying to address cross-media ownership. But that hasn't been settled. It needs to be settled. I mean, you need to limit the ownership of the media. You cannot allow a particular group to go on acquisition the media, because for the capitalist model, we'll always talk about the profit maximizations. And now many of them, they just argue. Now, if I don't make money, how will you pay the journalist? That is an argument that's made. So I need to make money. And some of the journalists also say, well, the owner has to make money. Otherwise, how will we be able to report? But the owners making money, are they allowing the journalists to do reporting what they want to do? They are not. They cannot. So that the consultation paper that has been floated, it is important that the comments are made. Those who want to defend the press freedom in India, they must submit comments, make people aware that their comments are also important. Because once the consultation paper is closed for comment and it is taken into policy making, and allowing if it is passed and the majority opinion comes that there is no harm in cross-media ownership, because the same media must be allowed also to distribute. I mean, you cannot do this. It's not happening in other states, Western countries. They are also having the capitalist model in the freedom. So the only way you were to ensure press freedom is that limiting the ownership. And that's why in this consultation paper that has been floated, we all need to focus on this and circulate more, particularly when we discuss about the press freedom issues in India. I think I have answered these questions.
Yeah, so thank you so much. So we have come to the end of our today's lecture session as well as interactive session. It was really an honor listening to you and hope to see you more such interactive sessions in future. Now I'd like to request my colleague, Dr. Jury Hazarika, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trisha. I hope I am audible.
Yes.
I'd like to take the privilege to offer the formal vote of thanks at this point. At the very beginning, of course, I'd like to offer my heartiest gratitude to the special invited guest for the occasion, the eminent journalist, Sri Sushanta Talukdar, for being here with us despite his busy schedule, and for, of course, sharing your thoughts and giving this insightful lecture while covering all the issues, important issues that are faced by the media realm in today's time, like ranging from self-regulation to media ownership, among others. Thank you, sir, for everything. And now the thanks, of course, the special thanks goes to the Vice Chancellor of Krishnakanta Handik State Open University, Professor Nipendra Narayan Sharma, sir, who always encourages us and supports us in organizing such events. And thank you, sir, for being here with us today and for sharing your thoughts with us. And of course, I'd like to thank the participants of today's occasion, which includes the directors and faculties of various schools of the university, the officials and other employees, research scholars and students of the university, and also those who joined us from other universities and other institutes of the region. Thank you all for participating and for the vibrant interaction that took place at the end of the lecture, which of course marks the success of a particular event. Our thanks also goes to those who are watching us virtually on YouTube, who are watching us live. And of course, our thanks goes to the IT personnel of the university, Sri Vishwadip Deka and his team for their constant support in organizing this event today. And at last, thanks everyone for being with us, and thanks one and all. And this is the end of today's program. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.